Okay, so this 250-page report has come out from Election Oversight Group. The reason why I want to talk to you about this today is because of what happened with Pam Bondi yesterday. And I need some new insight on this because I just don't know where to go with this Pam Bondi thing because I thought it was not good yesterday. I just don't think she's capable of fixing the errors that have just piled up. And we have to fix the DOJ. It must be fixed because there's too many important things that are riding on it. One thing that they are doing that is right is the Fulton County, Georgia situation with the election of 2020. The morning after the election, that's just to remind you, Georgia's Secretary of State went on national television and said 4.7 million votes had been cast. He said only about 2% remained to be counted, which is roughly 94,000 ballots. And he said, at this moment, the margin is decisive. Even suggested if one candidate won 100% of all of the outstanding votes, it's not going to change the outcome. But when the final tally first came in, the total wasn't 4.7 million votes that had been cast. It was 5.023 million. Okay, wait, what? And in Fulton County alone, the absentee ballots reportedly rose from 74,000 to more than 148,000 between election night and final certification. Where did that come from? And that's why this shift happened. It reversed the apparent outcome of the state, and that's why Donald Trump was like, wait a minute, cheating is going on. The report now states, no known explanation has been provided to justify the surge. Pause. If the numbers change by that magnitude, after officials publicly declare with near final certainty, then again, we've got to get it right. Not almost right. We need it right. We don't need defensiveness, dismissal. We need clarity. The report then goes into the chain of custody. Okay, listen to this. Investigators found that 148,000 absentee ballots were accepted and counted without first performing mandatory signature verification. Tens of thousands allegedly arrived at State Farm Arena in unsecured mail carts. Wait, what? Do you know what chain of custody is? Chain of custody is really important. It's not a partisan phrase. It is a basic legal principle. Chain of custody comes into play a lot of times in criminal trials, also financial audits. When you gather evidence, you have to know who had that evidence. That's one of the problems with the Epstein files. What's the chain of custody? You had all the evidence. Whose hands were on that? You have to know. And if the chain of custody breaks, then you can't rely on that being reliable anymore. You can't count that as reliable information because you don't know how it got from this place to the next place. Okay. The next thing they found was the missing tabulator tapes. This is really important because election law requires daily zero tapes. What that means is it's a check to prove the machine starts at zero. It requires closing tapes to document the total at the day's end. Okay, so it proved it was at zero, and then it proves that this is the number of votes that came in. According to testimony cited in the report, more than 100 required tabulator tapes representing about 315,000 early votes weren't signed or weren't signed properly. State investigators say they couldn't locate the required zero tapes for early voting on many machines. What? You can't what? Now, the report concludes that the statute requires accounting and chain of custody records, but they don't exist in the entirety of early voting. Okay, well, That's a really big failure. Then the last problem is the math problem. The math problem, the county records reportedly show 148,318 absentee ballots counted. Yet, again, this is going to be hard to do. I'm going to give you time so you can work out the math on this. You had only 125,785 voters. 148,000 votes cast, but only 125,000 people showed up to vote. So what? That's a pretty big gap. More than 22,000 ballots in a race that was decided by 11,779 votes. After multiple certifications, the counts didn't match one another. Now, here's where this becomes serious, way beyond politics. Philip Stark, he does stats. He's from Berkeley. So I would say he's probably not a conservative. He came in and he reviewed all of the aspects of the process. Here's what he didn't do. He didn't say this is widespread fraud, but he did say there are real reasons to distrust the election outcome. He found machine counts and audit tallies disagreed substantially, even about the number of ballots that were cast. He wrote that some ballots, listen to this, appeared to be included at least twice in the original counts and multiple times in recounts. He warned that unreliable ballot marking devices could make recounts a little more than security theater. Those are his words, security theater. That's a little devastating to the trust in the republic and our vote. Because here's the truth. Republics don't crash when one side loses. Republics collapse when half the country believes the referee is unreliable. And that's what's happening. We don't believe the referee. This is why the position of Pam Bondi is so important. And she seems to be doing a good job on this one. Because historically, 1876, we just recovered from the Civil War, and we almost lost the Union post-Civil War in 1876, Tammany Hall, New York. It operated on ballot manipulation. Reformers came in, and they forced structural transparency because it was all garbage, all of it, and everybody knew it. Nations in Latin America, Eastern Europe, why do they spiral out of control? Because their ballot was imperfect? No. They spiral out of control because the citizens lose faith and trust that ballots even mattered. The flame of liberty. To have a flame, you need oxygen. Confidence is the oxygen that brings the flame of liberty to life. Without it, everything suffocates. This is why the Fulton County thing matters so much. It's not about proving somebody right or proving somebody wrong. It's not about relitigating personalities. I mean, they actually said to Donald Trump, what difference does it make? It's not going to change the election. No, it's not. But we must know what happened so it doesn't happen again. Are people this stupid? I think not. And then I go out and I talk to some people and I'm like, oh my gosh, they are this stupid. This is about answering questions completely, transparently, and publicly. If the system is sound, it needs to be proven in daylight. If procedures failed, they have to be fixed openly. If records are missing, we need to know why they're missing and then correct the structure or arrest the people so it can't happen again. Because if Americans conclude that outcomes can shift without clear documentation, if chain of custody is just shrugged off on, I don't know, just paperwork, what difference does it matter? If audits contradict themselves and then we're told, don't dwell on that. It's an audit. What do you mean don't dwell on that? Of course I dwell on that. I have to dwell on that. It's an audit. Imagine going to the IRS and they audit you and they come back and they say your numbers aren't right. And you're like, don't dwell on that. Don't dwell on those numbers. Of course they're going to dwell on that. It's the numbers, and math is math. And if you can't fix those things, then elections stop being the peaceful transfer of power. And isn't that what we're all afraid of? Isn't the left afraid of that? And isn't the right afraid of that? That one time somebody's not going to believe the election and they're going to seize power. You want to stop that, then you must have an accounting on what happened in Fulton County. Because if you don't, it's permanent suspicion. And once suspicion replaces consent, we're no longer a self-governing republic. Our founders were so super smart. They did not design a system based on blind trust of officials or the government. They, in fact, developed a system that had checks and balances everywhere, and the last check and balance is in your First Amendment. I have a right to protest. I have a right to question the government. I have a right to demand answers from the government. It's my right. It's the first right. And on top of that, my religion can compel me to answer those questions, and I have a press that can ask those questions. The press is meant to question the government, not the people. All of it has to be a verifiable process. Paper trails, public counts, checks and balances. I wanted you to hear this from me because this report came out, 250-page report from the Election Oversight Group, and I didn't hear an awful lot. And I don't know if people understand why this is so important. If we don't restore confidence one way or another, then every single future election it's going to be fought not just at the ballot box, but in the mind of the citizens who no longer believe that the box is even secure or valid. And that is a far more dangerous place for a nation to be than anything we're in right now. So if I hear one more person say, what difference does it make? It's not going to change the election. Here's the difference. The question is whether Americans can trust how we decide. And if we can't answer that clearly, convincingly, and with records that we can show one another, then the damage does not belong to the Republicans. The damage does not belong to the Democrats or the independents. It belongs to the republic itself.